Hello, everyone, and welcome to Comic Talk Tuesday. Right now, I have the guest B.A. Turner. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. How you doing?
And right now, you're doing a campaign for Vigilantes Creed, including 2 novels and a mini comic.
Hmm.
Getting some Teutonic Knight Lovecraftian vibes from this.
Absolutely.
So, how did you get into comics?
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story. I grew up in a really small farm town on a farm, and there were no comic book shops anywhere in our vicinity. So as a kid, I didn't get exposed to comic books or even see one until I was an adult. And, when I was in high school, I had a pretty horrific accident to where I couldn't do anything for about 6 months other than just sit and stare at the TV or read something. And that's where I got introduced to Smallville. My brother had bought me the first 4 seasons, and I binged those and just fell in love with, Clark Kent, with Green Arrow, with Cyborg, all of the major characters in DC. And that's what then triggered me to go find comic shops and start collecting, specifically Marv Wolfman comics. I really fell in love with Deathstroke and Teen Titans, and then his later novel adaptations as well of Batman. So that's what really introduced me. And then, with my age group, once I got into college, that's when you had the comic book movie explosion for Marvel and eventually DC, and that really kind of put fuel on the fire of my interest in comics.
Right, right. There's definitely a lot of people who don't really get pushed into the superhero stuff until they're an adult, and definitely like the movies and TV shows have a little bit to do with that.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, I did read a little bit of superhero comics when I was younger, but not nearly as much as I would read like the more kid friendly stuff or the more manga geared stuff.
Hmm.
Then when I was adult, I started like picking it up again and kind of picked up where I left off.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays it seems like the comics are gearing towards a very different audience, so they don't really hit the same like they used to.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and that's part of kind of the passion behind this project was to bring back the kind of 90s style storytelling and art styles, because that's what I grew up on, or at least, once I was an adult, I fell in love with the stuff from the 90s, not really the more modern mainstream comics. And so, yeah, just trying to kind of reignite that style of storytelling. So,
Right, and that's pretty admirable. There's a lot of especially indie comic creators who want to try to recapture what they view as being the golden age of comics,
mhm.
where everything was interesting and good.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Why don't you give everyone your pitch for Vigilantes Creed? What is this about?
Yeah, so it is equal parts urban fantasy and science fiction with a lot of Lovecraftian style vibes throughout the story, as you can tell with some of the art there. Essentially, it's about a man named Slade Allen who becomes metaphysically bound to a divine grimoire,
Ooh.
and this happens as a result of him sacrificing his life for another, and that grimoire sensing that he was being unjustly taken from the earth before his time was up. And that grimoire had guided its keeper, Father Ephraim, an elderly priest, to the scene of the crime, and he performed an ancient ritual from it that saved his life. But in turn, every night at the stroke of midnight, he turns into a gargoyle. And initially, he's fueled by vengeance to find out who it was that had attacked him and the woman he saved and why. And it leads him down this rabbit hole of corruption in the city of Detroit that seems to point towards uh, the police commissioner. So as he's hunting down criminals to beat some information out of them and understand what's actually happening in the city, he encounters a few other individuals that are they end up being vigilantes with him that have been adversely affected by the same corruption, and they dedicate their lives to saving the city of Detroit and preventing others, like themselves, from being damaged, by this corruption. And they find out that a man named Incubus, which is the antagonist that looks like Cthulhu there a bit, is behind all of it. And he has unearthed the Nazi era mind control serum that allows him to enter the subconscious of his victims to torment them and convince them that he is their god. They must listen to all of his commands, and to convince them that they feel no fear, no pain, that they have to fight right to their dying breath for him. And so he's creating this army of super soldiers so that he can retain control over the city of Detroit and beyond. So essentially, the novels are setting up this massive war between the Gargoyle Dread Knight there, his two vigilantes up top, against Incubus and his army of super soldiers. So
That's very
yeah.
cool. You definitely see a lot of like werewolf style and vampire style, and even sometimes zombie style
Hmm.
things when it comes to transforming the main character. But
Hmm.
it's like kind of the first time hearing about a were gargoyle story, at least in
Hmm.
modern day.
Hmm.
So that does have like an interesting little twist on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's what's always blown my mind, ever since I was a kid. We had the Gargoyles TV series. It was phenomenal. Everybody loved it. But since then, outside of the I Frankenstein movie, they really haven't done much of anything with gargoyles. And it's such a unique creature with such in-depth lore that I just can't believe it hasn't been explored, because there's been so much focus on zombies and vampires and werewolves, which are great. But I always told myself, like, I wanted to do something unique. And the idea of from this, for the story, came in a dream about a gargoyle. And I was just like, it's about time somebody really went deep into gargoyle lore. And instead of like a medieval backstory or magic backstory like in the TV show, this has a biblical backstory. It ties into archangels and a angelic grimoire versus just like a spell book. And so it really dives deep into the lore of gargoyles. And there's obviously a lot of symbolism there in the art and such, and that ties into the novel. So it's a story about pure heroics versus pure evil. You have a villain that's not redeemable, that you love to hate, which again is kind of bringing back like the like dark side style of villains. Not a Thanos that they try to make you relate to him and see the good in them. And I'm like, no, I want a pure villain, and I want a hero that may look like a villain, that is insanely intimidating and fearful, but is pure of heart and filled with goodwill.
Yeah, I do definitely hate how a lot of modern writers will take a villain, make them do like abhorrent shit, and
Yeah.
then like all of a sudden try to like redeem them because they had a sad backstory or something. And it's like, well, that
Hmm.
doesn't really make up for all the bad shit that they did, you know?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. No, this villain, I mean, he was an evil little shit as a teenager, and he just, his influences as a child is what made him who he became. And it just, his evil grew as he grew. And yeah, there's no sad backstory. It's just like, you just, you want him to be captured or killed throughout the entire story, which I think makes it more engaging, because you're just like at the edge of your seat of, how are they going to capture him? Like, what's going to happen to this guy? And I don't like when, like, you're kind of hinting at, these writers kind of throw a curveball and they're like, oh well, maybe he's not that bad, and it just pulls the stakes out of it for me. And I wanted to keep the stakes in the story there, so people have something to stay intrigued by.
Right, right. So is the mini comic that ties into this supposed to be like a prequel or is it a side story?
So it's unique. There's two prose novels, which are running at 240 pages plus, and they're in comic book size and laminated and all that. And my plan long term is to do full comic issues, for the storyline. But the idea of the mini comic is it's in comic book format. You have, panelization, you have two-page spreads. It's just like a comic book. However, it does not tell the story in the mini comic. It's more like massive trading cards in a sense, where it's going to introduce every major and supporting character with, key information like height, weight, kill stats, abilities, skills, and it's showing 15 to 17 pages of major scenes from the novels. So it will actually refer you to the page and chapter where that scene plays out. And so the idea is, a lot of people, especially in the comic realm, when they think of reading a novel, they think, oh, long, boring, there's no visualization. And myself as a novel lover, I even struggle with that because when you're reading a novel, if you put it down for a day or two, sometimes you forget, well, how did they describe, you know, certain characteristics of the character? How does this look like? What did that character look like? And you don't want to, as a writer, keep having to remind the reader. So this takes that distraction away to where you just look at the mini comic, you know exactly how every character looks, and then as you're reading, you can play it like a film in your mind, and you don't have those distractions, and you can focus on the scene and what's happening. So it's really a supplemental art book that gives you introductions to all the characters and gives you that proper visualization. So it's a more immersive novel reading experience. And then it gives everyone kind of a taste of what they can expect when I do a full comic. They'll be able to see, oh, what's the cover art quality going to look like? What's the interior art going to look like? How imaginative are the panels and the layouts? So it's kind of like a warm up for them, and also gives them a great collection of some really great art, in my opinion.
Right, right. And in a way, it's kind of like a proof of concept work.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. It is funny that you mentioned the whole visual thing with novels. I definitely struggle with that when reading in general because I'm more of a visual learner,
Hmm.
also.
Hmm.
So it just helps me to be able to see
Hmm.
something.
Yeah, and
And nowadays, in a lot of modern writing classes, they even teach you that it's bad to describe a character in your
hmm.
writing, which I
Hmm.
feel like is just really dumb advice.
Yeah, I agree. And and kind of what I'm trying to get across to people is, there's positives and negatives to both mediums, right? For a comic, you get all of that visual art, which is fantastic, but you are limited in terms of dialogue and how in depth you can go in the story because not everyone can afford to do a 100-page graphic novel, right? A lot of people are limited by cost and whatnot to maybe a 30-page floppy. And most people knock that out in a day in reading, and then they have to wait 6 months to a year for the next issue. And what's
Mm.
great about this is you get that art, but you also get days, if not weeks, of entertainment. And I can provide really in-depth backstories on all of the characters, on the grimoire itself, and go really heavy on the lore, so you get more out of the story, you get more entertainment in terms of days or weeks, but then you get that art as well, and then you get to marry that in your mind. And so there's a lot of people that, they'll finish a comic and then they're like, oh, I got to wait for, the next campaign to fulfill or another book to come in. And so they're hungry for more content. And I kind of want to be that creator in the comic space where, like, yeah, you're going to get comics from me, but, while you have that stagnant period in between comics from folks, you can pick up my book and just read some chapters and get more story and more content. Um, and then there's less of a gap in between the next time I provide more content. So
Right, right. Kind of flipping the script a little bit with how these campaigns are normally done, where they
Mhm,
fund for the actual comic to get created. You're
mhm,
instead just trying to fund for more of the content
mhm.
than anything else, and then like prepare for the future.
Yeah, and what's unique about this one too is, the books are 100% done. I already have proofs, I already have stock actually to fulfill, and the mini comic is going to be done in the next 3 weeks. So I literally plan on fulfilling in October. So immediately upon the fund of or the transfer of funds, I'm gonna just be placing my order and fulfilling right away. So it'll be a very short turnaround time. So I've taken that kind of leap of faith or financial risk to just get all the art done in advance so that you get your content immediately, and hopefully that will garner some trust with people, and they'll know, hey, when I do a full comic issue, like this person's gonna he's gonna fulfill, he's gonna keep his word, because everyone's came across campaigns where they might take years or sometimes they don't even fulfill. um, so I'm hoping to kind of eliminate that doubt for folks.
Right, right. Well, that's awesome that you'll have it finished like fairly quickly so that
Mhm.
people can get their hands on this and get a good idea of what this comic series could be.
Yeah,
Who's your artist, by the way? The art is fantastic.
yeah, so about 90% of the art is done by Corey Barton, who's out of Australia. Him and his brother are really up and coming artists. They've created the Kozar indie comic, and he did the cover art for both novels and the main cover for the mini comic. And he's doing all the interior pages except for two. The other two pages are being done by my friend Elliot Rodriguez out of Peru. So, yeah, and then the painted variant cover for the mini comic was done by Skunk Artworks out of Germany. He's fantastic. He does some really unique, like paint style art. And then the black and white art book cover and the duology version cover for the novels was done by Joe Ball, who just does crazy black and white art. So,
Right, right. I've definitely come across a bunch of different artists where it's like their black and white
oh
just
yeah,
can't be surpassed by color. It's just
yeah,
so striking.
yeah. That piece there is just it's unbelievable. Yeah, every time he'd send me an update, I was just studying it for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then when it's done, like you literally have to look at so many different sections to you'll catch like all the different characters, and it works two ways. If you flip it upside down, it has action going in both directions, and it's just an amazing piece of art. So yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Writing wise, who
Mhm.
did you take some inspiration from for this series?
Yeah, mixture of folks. I mean, my initial, I guess, kind of love for writing came from Ayn Rand, reading Atlas Shrugged and Fountainhead, which obviously is much different from this style of fiction, but just her level of detail and how well she developed her characters was really inspiring. And then the novelizations and the comic material from Marv Wolfman was just fantastic. The fact that he was a hybrid creator, and there's not a lot of folks that write novels and comics, was a huge inspiration. And the way he created such unique characters like Cyborg, like Deathstroke, absolutely admire him. And then, I mean, from there, it really was more of film writers and directors. Drew a lot of inspiration from Zack Snyder, which I think you can kind of tell in the color tones of the art, and then Christopher Nolan and David Ayer. Those three, their films really inspired me and their stories. And when I started writing these books, that's when a lot of their films really pulled me in. And so yeah, a mixture of novel writers, comic writers, and film creators.
Good to hear. It's good to pull inspiration from like multiple different places, really.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously Lovecraft too. I mean, that goes without
Oh yeah,
saying with the
yeah.
the character creation and with that mind control serum treatment that he does, that's where you get a lot of Lovecraft. It's just very eerie, trippy scenes of him mentally tormenting his subjects, and that's where Lovecraft obviously had kind of that horror aspect, but also pulled in a lot of philosophy and supernatural lore, and I do that throughout the story as well. So people that liked the Supernatural TV series or the Hellboy comic series or films, they'll really appreciate that supernatural side of things.
Right, right. I could totally see that. Modern, like a modern style of fantasy, I haven't
Hmm.
seen done well in a long time,
Hmm. For sure.
honestly. But I would like to see more in that genre because it is enjoyable, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just that the majority of people who do that style is for the cheapness of it. So it's like CW shows or stuff like that. But
Yep. Yep.
yeah, I do wonder the name Incubus.
Yep.
That maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm thinking of a different word. But isn't that like the male version of a succubus?
I don't think so. My intent here was more symbolic in the sense that, his appearance is that of an octopus with the tentacles, and when he is in his subconscious in the subconscious of his victims, he can force them to see anything he would like. So his tentacles squirm and there's ink that spews from his mouth, and so that's where that kind of the ink, the appearance, it's to kind of represent an octopus. And he also has a mechanical like right arm, like a steampunk style right arm, and so it allows him to have enhanced strength and to choke or constrict his victims in real life. So, which is, goes in hand with what an octopus can do.
Gotcha,
Yep.
gotcha.
Yep.
I do gotta say, it looks like you have a lot of different tiers here. Are these just
Yeah.
like different bundles or?
Yeah. It's a mixture. It can be a little overwhelming, but since there's actually five different physical items, a lot of people will have a comic and then a variant or two, but with there being two novels plus mini comic variants, um, people can come into this knowing that every combination is possible. If you just want one of the novels, you can get it. If you just want one of the comics, you can get it. So obviously, to make each available individually, it makes there to be a lot of tiers, and then there's a lot of bundles, and the bundles are where you get a lot of discounts. You get also free art prints and free bookmarks with those bundles, and there's also two digital tiers in case you're a little bit low on funds and you don't want to pay the shipping. You can get the books all digitally as well.
Okay,
Yep. And
that's
then there's
fair.
one sketch card left from Joe Ball, and the original art from Skunk and Joe Ball is still available. So those are some of the tiers as well.
Alright. Have you written any other books before, or is this your first?
These are the first. I started about 7 or 8 years ago, and I initially wrote it as one story, but I got above 500 pages, and I'm like, yeah, I need to split these up and just do a series. And then I started coming up with ideas for a third book and beyond. So that's what kind of caused it to be two novels, and then I was getting even further into comics as I was writing these novels, and as soon as I got the first piece of cover art from Corey, I was like, I gotta see more of these characters come to life, and that's what led to me being to the point where I'm like, oh, I want 15 pages of art. Like, I really want to introduce all these characters, and then hopefully within the next year or so, take the dive into doing a full comic that's at least 30 pages. So
Well, welcome to the world of crowdfunded writing.
Yeah, thank you.
How you enjoying your experience crowdfunding so far?
It's interesting. It has its ups and downs. It's just I'm sure just the amount of time that you put in. I mean, not just the book itself, but setting up the page, doing thumbnails, trailers. I mean, it's an immense amount of work, and it's just the hardest part isn't that though. The hardest part is getting in front of readers, and I found it's much easier to get in front of comic readers because Twitter is just filled with comic lovers, but the novel space, they're not very active on Twitter. They're all on in Facebook and Reddit groups, and those groups do not let you show your work to people. So
Hmm.
it's very, very hard to get yourself in front of folks for novels. So like that's the challenge I'm trying to overcome, and I'm hoping once this campaign ends and it's in demand, since I can fulfill so quickly, hopefully word of mouth and reviews will help, get it out in front of other novel readers down the line. So,
Yeah. Have you had like a few people already look over the books and they know
yeah,
the secrets of what's going to happen?
yeah, had a couple beta readers, and a lot of them said even before the mini comic that it read more like a graphic novel, because of the intensity and the detailed, fighting scenes, and a lot of positive reviews in regards to enjoying the biblical lore and there just being a completely unique twist on a gargoyle. Because most people, when they think of Gargoyle, they don't think beyond that TV show. They don't realize, why a lot of Catholics believe that they put them on those old Gothic churches as a symbol to keep evil spirits out of the church. And they're meant to be evil looking so that they can instill fear even in the most evil of creatures. And I just really love that concept. And so I'm like, I'm going to really expand on that, create a unique backstory. So I think a lot of people, surface level, would think, oh, it's a superhero book. It's going to be like the Gargoyles TV series, but it's definitely much, much different from that. And it's not a typical like superhero story at all. It's more of a vigilante, story, hence the name. So,
Right, right. And going back to what we were talking about trying to find audiences and get your books out there, it really is so difficult for indie authors. Almost intentionally so, of course.
mhm.
You don't really get that many lessons or classes about how to market your books or
Mhm,
how to sell yourself, and so you kind of just have to learn through the internet or learn along the
mhm,
way how to do it the right way,
mhm.
so to say.
Yep.
But I think you're doing the right thing by trying to get out there with interviews like these at least.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's my biggest advice for people is, it's just a matter of trying, right? It's kind of a crapshoot when it comes to reaching out to folk. You'll be pleasantly surprised sometimes at the people that will respond to your messages and your inquiries to be on an interview or a stream, and then you will run across people that you'll message them and you just won't get a response, and but you have to try every avenue. Even if it's someone that you think, oh, they're way too popular, too big of a name, you got to try, because a lot of people, they'll get on the right show or in front of the right audience, and it changes everything, within a moment. So I say just get yourself out there. Don't feel bad asking or fighting to get on shows, and if you don't get on them right away, maybe in a couple months you can get on them. And the more people connect with you as a creator, the more they will tell others about you, and they may know someone that can help get you in front of people. So you just have to keep fighting regardless of how well a campaign is going, or
Oh yeah. And there's so many of these types of campaigns that I see that just aren't they don't really put that much time or effort into the marketing side of it,
True.
and they end up with 0 backers, and
Hmm.
you already have 48, so you're already doing much better than most,
Yep.
especially for your first project.
Hmm.
Good on you. Very cool stuff. You get
Thank you.
someone to do the motion comic for you?
Yeah, that was Von Klaus, who just
Ah,
started
nice.
fulfilling Terror in the Trenches, which is a really, really cool looking comic.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Man, I gotta get me some of these motion comics done for me. They
Oh
look so
yeah,
good.
yeah, it's fun.
I guess to wrap up our little comic talk,
Hmm.
uh, maybe you should just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and give a little pitch for why they should buy your books of all the people crowdfunding.
Yeah, I mean, to start, you're getting a unique reading experience. That's the biggest thing that I'm selling here. You're not getting a slow and boring, novel without visualization. I do truly think it'll be the most immersive prose novel experience that you'll have, and you're getting someone that is going to fulfill very quickly. You're not going to have a long wait with me, and I'm trustworthy. I'm the type of person that, whether it's on Twitter or on here, I like to just be real. I'm not going to be fake to try to get sales or anything like that. I'm not going to tell you that my book is going to absolutely blow your mind and it's better than anything out there. I'm just going to be honest with people and, tell them, upfront what my goals and plans are. And, hopefully, people will not just want to read my content, but they'll, enjoy speaking with me or interacting with me on social media, and will kind of view it as, kind of a partnership in content. Because, when it comes to, other creators out there or writers, directors, when they interact with the people that love their content, I think that is just really, really amazing, versus the ones that kind of, they don't appreciate, the people that are supporting them. And, for me, if you're supporting me and you're backing my campaigns, that's what allows me to continue to pursue my dream and try to give you the best story possible. So, I just hope that everyone will give the novels a chance and, you know, let me prove myself to them. So, and
Right.
finally get exposed to a unique gargoyle story. We need more gargoyle stuff out there.
Yeah, I know my boyfriend Adam was a big Gargoyles fan, so I should definitely show
Hmm.
this to him later on.
Oh, hell yeah. If he has questions, let me know. Yeah, I think he'd love it.
Right. And going back to what you said about on social media, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you just put in BA Turner underscore VC, or just look up BA Turner, it'll pop up. I do have a YouTube channel, same thing, just look up BA Turner. I do some occasional videos, just some insight into, how I'm creating my stories, my goals, wanting to promote and help other indie creators, how I'd like to help both the novel and indie comic communities. And I do plan on doing interviews as such in the future for other creators to try to help them, get in front of more folks as well. So those would be probably the best places, other than obviously Indiegogo and Fund My Comic, where the campaigns are. So
Awesome stuff. Well, thanks
yeah.
for coming on to Talk. Bleh. Thanks for coming on to Comic Talk Tuesday.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.